When the original team of developers at Konami were tasked with making Silent Hill, they dared to indulge their own ambitions and not just create a game that could compete with Resident Evil, as ordered, but a game that had its own identity in its art style, in its story, and in its camera style. While Capcom was building Resident Evil and Dino Crisis games set against pre-rendered 2D backgrounds and a static fixed camera, Silent Hill featured a fully 3D world and various styles of camera. And what makes Silent Hill's camera special is that I don't even know how to explain it. It doesn't fit into any one category. It's third person, yes, but not in the way a game like Uncharted is third person, or the slew of games these days using the same over-the-shoulder perspective. Silent Hill tends to get lumped into the fixed camera horror game category with Resident Evil, but the truth is that fixed angles are only used in certain places. A lot of Silent Hill is presented from an angled down camera behind the character, with the player able to sway it side to side. There's weight to its movement, and sometimes when you enter a room or hallway, the camera faces the character, leading you to either walk towards it or swing it around behind you. If you do walk towards it, usually it'll swing behind you automatically once you pass a certain point. In open spaces, it's common for the camera to pull back into the side. Just look how beautifully we transition from a behind view to a front view, swinging back to behind and then pulling to the side. It's these kinds of camera movements that made Silent Hill unique, not just in its style of horror, but the way it felt to experience. Top-down angles are used in particularly effective ways in claustrophobic situations, sometimes with a camera following you like in the prison corridors. In Silent Hill 3, a top-down angle is used to get the player to notice the footprints forming on the ground that lead to a hidden door. Fixed camera angles play an important part in the framing of certain rooms and moments. You may open a door to suddenly have the camera framing the room from afar with the monsters in the foreground. Fixed camera can draw your attention to an important item, instead of having to place interaction symbols or making them flash, hurting the immersion. A cut to fixed camera can create dramatic moments of tension, where you fear what may be ahead because you can't see yet. It establishes the same kind of fear found in a horror movie, where we face the characters head-on as they move, instead of seeing what they would see. There's just nothing like the feeling of opening a door in a survival horror game to have the camera facing your character, but you can hear an enemy off-screen. You have no idea if you're gonna see it as soon as the camera changes. Low to the ground angles can create a creepy feel in an already creepy room, and sometimes it feels like someone is watching you. All of these angles are the art of cinematography and the way that camera angles can guide the emotional experience of the player, and it's something you lose when the camera is stuck in one position for the entire game. In a lot of these fixed angle situations, it's not a static fixed camera like Resident Evil, but an angular fixed camera since it turns to follow the character. Unique camera moments like the balcony in Silent Hill 2 start in one place and then move upwards or downwards as you walk, creating uniquely memorable visual moments. If you want clear proof that the camera style of the original Silent Hill games is just as important as the horror and the story, look no further than the opening nightmare sequence in Silent Hill 1 and how Christoph Gans, director of the Silent Hill movie, went to great lengths to recreate it. After running down the alley dodging the attack dogs, the camera switches to one of my favorite dramatic angles, framing a disgusting slaughtered corpse in front of you from far above. And as you step forward into the unknown, the camera tilts as it follows you. It's an iconic moment, and I can tell you that in 1999, many of us reacted with, "Whoa, look how the camera is moving, that's so cool." The camera style of early survival horror is absolutely part of the appeal, especially in Silent Hill. Christoph Gans used a crane system to recreate the feeling of this scene, not just aesthetically but cinematically, because the unique, even at times disorienting camera was important to establishing the mood. Loving Silent Hill for its camera direction is not a fringe position based on nostalgia. The movie wouldn't have gone through the trouble of recreating the camera of this scene if that were the case. This is what a truly cinematic camera style is in a video game. Is it really not immersive to feel like you're controlling a well-directed horror movie? I understand that over-the-shoulder camera allows you to look all around and get those sweet headshots, but we've traded the art of intentional camera direction and the beauty of cinematic storytelling for a homogeneous camera system that makes every game look and play the same. Now, I'm not saying there are no problems with these classic camera systems and that there's no room for improvement if implemented today. Just look at how Tormented Souls evolves this classic camera style into something a lot more intuitive to use. Every 3D camera will have its issues no matter what the game is. I don't think there's any perfect camera that covers absolutely every possibility. First person, you can get hit by enemies you can't see behind you and to your sides, you can step on things on the ground. Third person camera in an action game, it may freak out and zoom in when you're close to walls. Isometric camera can lead to wall obstruction and column obstruction, and fixed camera can lead to you being unable to see certain enemies in crucial combat moments, or can flip back and forth as you're repeatedly crossing a switching point. Classic Silent Hill is no different. Silent Hill 2's camera is poorly designed for tight spaces and can be infuriating to deal with in small apartment rooms, and a monster you can't see standing in a doorway is no fun to deal with. I don't want this video to come across as me saying the old way of doing things was perfect. I'm honest about the camera's faults. We should all be about the cameras we prefer. But I think a lot of modern players don't understand why so many people are passionate about the camera styles of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and other early horror titles. And it really comes down to the cinematic feeling they give you. Someone can watch you play and get the feeling that they're watching a horror movie because the camera is so well directed. We value that so much that we are willing to sacrifice aspects of player control to get it. I'll take simplified combat options, occasionally obscured enemies, and some frustrating moments in exchange for the visually artistic experience I get from a well-thought-out cinematic camera and intentional framing of the world. There's also a common misconception amongst people who haven't actually played a classic-style horror game in 30 years that these games have to be made with tank controls. They don't. Silent Hill 2 and 3 came with a choice of tank controls or analog, and you can play the remaster of the Resident Evil GameCube remake with analog control as well. Newer titles like Tormented Souls, Elisa, and the upcoming Hollow Body modernize the classic camera systems with a choice between tank controls or analog. So I'm not trying to force tank controls on anyone, it's all about the cinematography. And just in time for this video, we've seen the release of the incredible PC mod for the Resident Evil 2 remake that presents the entire game in classic fixed camera, over 1,300 customly created camera angles to give us the RE2 remake that so many of us were waiting decades for but never got. It's been very well received and shows that this kind of presentation is still absolutely viable, it just needs updating for controls and aiming and all that. I hope this video has helped you understand the love fans have for classic horror camera systems, and understand why some of us are sad to see the Silent Hill 2 remake go for the standard familiar Resident Evil remake camera direction, instead of modernizing and innovating on a more Silent Hill style camera. I'm honestly surprised they didn't, because Bloober Studio made the medium, which has great uses of fixed camera. Check out my video on the top 25 classic Resident Evil camera angles, I think you might enjoy that. Thanks for watching, you can definitely check back here for coverage of the remake when it comes out. And make sure you check out my videos on Silent Hill: The Short Message and the retconning of the original series.